Hey everybody, welcome back to Simply Carifying. I know it's been so long, but we made it. And today we have a real episode, One totally relatable too if you're a parent, just throwing that out there. It is called From Playtime to Pissed Off. You know what I'm talking about. If you have some teens, yeah. Remember when they were little? Oh, how cute they were. Like, you go through stages as a parent, right? You get the little scrunched up butts, and they're little nuzzled right in your neck, and just, you can hear their little nose whistle, and then they fall asleep, and yeah, they drool, and sure, there's baby vomit and all that stuff, but they're so cute. I'm saying this to the ones that sleep normally. I mean, there are some who just are relentless, scream, cry, colicky, and those ones are like, they're still sweet. It's just kind of like a different kind of sweet. You know what I mean? But even still, eventually you have those angelic moments where you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy to be a parent. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well then you start to see this tiny little creature, this helpless little, start to grow into something that can crawl and then walk, and then, it starts to get little flakes of independence. It can reach the light switch or barely touch the doorknob and go to get its own snacks and stuff. I keep saying it. Sorry, it's so weird. Not talking about something crazy. So I have girls, so I'm just gonna say she. Okay, little girls. So I have 4 daughters. I've said this, and my timeline, the ages, which I always get asked, it's always like, oh, how many kids do you have? And I say, 4 girls. Oh my gosh, what are their ages? Okay, well, my oldest is 20 and my youngest is 5. I have 2 middles, being 11 and 17. So yeah, I always say, yep, I've got hormones across the board, which is absolutely fucking true. Absolutely true. Now, oh God, it's hard to even think of there just being one so long ago. My first one, and they're so weird. Like, the circumstances are so weird. Okay, so my first daughter came along about 2 weeks after my husband's first deployment. So the first 7 months was kind of tough. I was on my own for that time. And I mean, I was with family and stuff like that, but like, couple wise, mom, dad wise, I was the mom for that. So like, it was hard sometimes, mostly because I was scared to death about the circumstances, like where my husband was, and he hasn't seen her, and all that stuff. Seen her in person anyway. But her growing up, the weird things that got me about her were when she was like 2 years old, instead of clinging to like toys and things, I remember taking her to get a couple new like t-shirts or tank tops for the summer or whatever, and I had set them in the cart. She was sitting in there with them, and she just wanted to hold them. And then when it came time to pay, she like did not want to give them up, and the cashier's looking at me like, I've never seen a kid do this over clothes. It's always toys. And it's like, is this a sign? Like, what am I going to be fucked? Like, ugh. So things like that stick out. At one point we had gotten her, oh God, I don't even remember. It was one of those like those alive pet things. It was like a horse. It was like a legit pony type. It was a horse, right? And you could give it a carrot. Maybe it was like Buttercup or something. I have no idea. You could feed this thing a carrot, and the cool / creepy thing of it didn't move, right? It couldn't walk, but you could sit on it, and its head would turn and like do this, and it could like make mouth movements and stuff for eating and whatnot. But it had like a motion sensor thing about it. So if you were over here and it was looking here, if it heard you or what, like it would, go to wherever you were. We thought, as parents buying this thing, like, oh, this is cool as shit. I would have loved this as a little girl, blah, blah, blah. She's like 2.5 at this point. part of it scared to death. Scared to death. Like, it took her a while to even start feeding the carrot, and even then, like, it would make the first chomp sound, and she'd be like, So, Buttercup didn't get to hang out as long as probably she could have, but... Okay, so the joys of the one kid. Easier to take, right? It's a grab-and-go situation. You only have to buy for one. Diapers for one, clothes for one, all this stuff. And it's like you got this sweet little family, you know, odd-numbered, whatever. Okay. I never knew how many kids that I wanted, for sure, okay? I always said, though, as long as they all fit, like all of our family fits in a vehicle, we all fit on a couch, and we can all sit at the dining table, and no one has to use a wonky chair, okay? And if you know what I mean, you know, like each table comes with a legit set of chairs, and then if there's extra, someone's wheeling up an office chair or sitting on the awkward stool that gets you at a way different height than everybody else. Yeah, I've had to do that. It's not great, okay? So, okay. So, flash forward, I have 4 girls, okay? And the sweetness stage for each of them, like the learning things. Then you realize how different each kid is. So you have to take that into account. You know, like my first 2 daughters were somewhat similar. They liked more of like the artsy stuff, blah, blah, blah. My third daughter, when it came to like the alphabet, when she's, you know, 2, whatever, she would get to H and be like, I'm good. It's okay. And I'm like, no, we're not done. Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. But numbers and like meticulous coloring, like it was almost like she was using a different part. I don't know. So you get to learn and adapt all these tiny little, these creatures, right? They develop their own wants and their needs and their preferences and all kinds of things. And some people go on like a timeline, like a baseline of milestones and all this shit. Oh, well, your sister did this and your sister did, by this time, you know, you should be doing this. That is absolute number 1 mistake to make as a parent. Okay, because one, it's going to do nothing but stress you the fuck out and think you're doing something absolutely wrong. Okay, now this is assuming that you're like, you know, parenting the same and you're not like, oh, my firstborn, and then the second one's like, ugh. You know what I mean? So as long as you're not like that, if you're consistent, then yeah, they go at their own pace and it is what it is. So you notice all the cutesy things when they're little. They all have got little, you know. You also remember some asshole-ish moments, right? Like trying to leave the park and, oh my God, it's the end of the world. You're basically stabbing your kid because, you know, the screams emitting from this tiny person or whatever, or the tantrums or whatever. And maybe it doesn't always happen, or maybe it's never happened. But, at one point or another, you might have some kind of disagreement or whatever with this miniature version of you, and some personalities are going to come out, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Where did you even come from? So I was always told, you know, to beware of the terrible twos, right? That's the worst stage, but they just get so... everything's just terrible. It's terrible too. It's like, I get it. It's cute on a shirt and it sounds good. It rolls off the tongue. Terrible too. But I'm going to tell you that 3 is even worse because 2, they start to test out different things. Like they make different faces and noises and, you know, they do the little, you know, things where they're just kind of holding their own, and they test the boundaries at 2. At 3, they start putting the faces and the noises and shit together, and they know exactly when to use it. Okay? Like, it's like a tiny version of you on a bad day, and you just want to be like, 3s are so much worse than 2, as far as, like, attitude stuff. Now, 3 on a good side, they're picking up a lot of stuff. You can have, like, weird little conversations. I remember driving my older kids to school, and when my younger middle one was 3, whenever we're driving home from the school, we see like a duck flying or a bird flying or whatever, and it turned into, where's he going? What's he doing today? You know, like we're following the life of this one bird, even though the bird changes species, so it is what it is. But anyway, you know, like, is he going to get a donut and then he's going to go swim, or maybe he's going to go to school, and it's just like, it's this backseat back and forth that you just never know what's going to come out of it. And that's another part of the fun, right? Playtime, where their imagination just goes fucking crazy. You got the floor is lava, you've got these, you know, magical teepee castles built out of, you know, a couple chairs and blankets, but no, it is the ultimate impenetrable fort, and you can't come in unless you know the secret word and all that stuff. Like, it's just, how do you go from that, right? All this ooey gooey goodness to they just shut down, or they want to be left alone, don't look at me, don't talk to me, like, they just, they grow and they evolve, and like, if you have a teenager, have you ever like looked at them, like honestly looked at them and just been like, you can see, we're gonna paint a picture. My oldest is in love with like black and white stripes. She's very Tim Burton-esque. You know, she loves the color black. I mean, I can't really blame her. That's what my closet is a lot of. But she has a definite style, right? And it's like, when you were little, you wore whatever, you know, and it was all like pink and frilly and girly. And maybe that's why, like that, you know, I've been told that, yeah, if they go really hard one way, or they lean really, you know, whatever one way, then usually they'll either stick with it or be somewhat consistent, or they'll just go complete opposite side of the spectrum and just psh. So it's kind of weird to like look at my oldest at 20 and remember her at 2, you know, scared to feed a horse, and her little, you know, pull up and pink t-shirt and stuff like that. It's just like, what happened? Not in a bad way, but like, what happened? You're bitching about work, and you're talking about, you know, all the pains and the headaches and all the stuff. Like, you remember the conversations about the bird going to get a donut before you went swimming. And now you're talking about, you know, how much the period sucks and work is shit and you're tired of being a grown-up. Like, it's just, you just wonder, what happened? So, what I put in here, when kids go from playful toddlers to moody teens, there are several stages, and it is terrifying. And if you're stuck not stuck, if you're in the toddler stage right now, even on those tough days, because I heard it every single time, treasure these days because they don't last forever, which is absolutely true, right? And nobody wants to hear it in the time, because normally they're like pulling their hair out, they're going fucking nuts. It's like, when will this end kind of deal. But eventually it does end. I would say that, you know, eventually, you know, the toys start to disappear, unless you have kids, you know, every 6 years like me. They kind of, you know, just kind of stay. But one day I'll go, and there won't be like a pile of Legos on her little table, or, you know, a cup that she forgot to put in the sink or whatever. Like, there's just gonna be things around or not around. It's gonna be different. But anyway, I'm dealing with a 20-year-old bitching about like work, a 17-year-old who's about to finish school, so she's kind of like in between bitching sessions. I mean, like, she's gonna start work, but and then I've got the 11-year-old who acts like a 15-year-old, so it's like, I got some years left with that one. And then the 5-year-old who thinks she should be treated like a 10-year-old, and it's like, yeah. So when I say hormones across the board, moods across the board, totally accurate and exhausting some days. But yeah, let's go. So the shift from a playful toddler to a moody teenager often happens much earlier than parents expect. Facts. Typically beginning as a preteen phase between the ages of 8 and 13. While the most intense years are often cited as age 14 to 16. The biological and cognitive foundations for this shift start in late elementary school. As sad as that is, it is very true. So my daughter is in 5th grade, the 11-year-old. And she's already had to deal with, I mean, there are kids in her school that roll up with, you know, they have their iPhones, and they have their Stanleys, and they have, you know, their fucking iPod Air, whatever, whatever the AirPods, Jesus Christ, whatever the fuck. And they just have all these things, and they're very snobby, very bitchy, some of them, very just like spoiled and disconnected from reality in some points. And I couldn't imagine. Okay. Now, me, myself, as I say, this is my channel. This is how I parent. I mean, I'm sure there are things that people totally disagree with, which is totally fine, to each their own, right? Like, these people came out of my body. And so, yeah. Another one of my videos is not raising assholes, and that is kind of part of that. I also want them to actually spend their kid years trying to be a kid. Because I've seen 10-year-olds dress like they're 16-year-olds. And I've seen 16-year-olds who, I mean, it's just, it's a crazy time now. And with social media and everything else, like, some of these kids at her school, these 10, 11, even 8, 9, like, have their own phone. They have their own social media and all this shit. And that is terrifying to me. Now, does my daughter want a phone? Of course she does. She's 11. You know, she wants what everyone else has. You know, it's not going to happen, but she wants it. But not even my 17-year-old uses social media yet. And the important thing is that they don't want to, right? I feel like a pat on the back is deserved a little bit, because it's not that I've lied to them. It's not that I've told them that they absolutely can't have it. It's that when I watch my documentaries and shit of like how warped social media and shit can be, especially for younger people, like, I told my daughter that she is in like the scariest age bracket right now as far as like adolescent girls go. Because as a young girl, you go through tons of stages anyway. Your body changes, you got hormones coming in, like, just it's a lot of stuff to deal with if you're by yourself. Now you're thrown in a mix with all these other girls going through similar changes, and then even if you've had the same friend for like 3 years, she could all of a sudden realize that she doesn't like you anymore and she wants to go hang with these people because they have the same color phone case and, you know, wear the same sneakers or whatever the fuck. So then you get to deal with all of these other things, these blocks that just kind of stack on each other, and you throw social media in there, and that's like making everything pop off 1,000 times more, where you got faceless fucking gutter trolls who can say whatever they want or anonymously say shit. And it's really scary, because the numbers of girls her age, or, you know, I want to say it's like 9 to 14, 15. That right there is like the scariest block for me. When my older ones were in this block, they tried to be shady, right? We had got them like these little tablets or something for Christmas. And at one point, you know, both of them have had experiences where they got in trouble because they were trying to sneak around and do some shady shit as far as like talking to people and everything else. Now, I say that the internet was new for me, and like the whole chat room things, that was a couple videos ago, right? Like, you go in there and talk to whoever the fuck you think you're talking to, and you really don't know. And like, did that stop us? No. We thought that if we turned the computer off or the internet off, we're just good, you know? So they kind of went through things, and we had to have the deep talks and all the things about, you know, how scary it is and their age and all this stuff. If you have any bad thoughts and all the negative stuff. Because friends, you know, they can egg shit on or make it worse and blah, 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 blah. So she's in that spot. She's in one of those preteen spots where it's just like, so why these changes happen? Let's reel back in. Sorry. This transition is driven by a perfect storm of biological and social factors. Great. Anything that starts like that. So let's see. The ages 6 to 9. Before visible puberty, the adrenal glands begin producing hormones like DHEA. This often leads to the first moody outbursts, increased irritability, and even body odor. Oh my God. Okay. So with my 11-year-old, I will say that she has older sisters. And her older sisters, you know, like siblings in the home siblings are assholes to each other, right? Sometimes they're fine, but more times than not, like, you've been with this person for so long, you know everything about them, and it's just like, sometimes they just bug the ever-living shit out of you, right? So you treat them like crap, they treat you like crap. Sometimes that's just a sibling thing, okay? As far as like fighting, don't take my stuff, don't wear my clothes, what are you looking at, don't touch me, you know, it's just a never-ending thing. I was there, you know, like, I get it, but in the same time, it's like, don't be an asshole to your sister, like, all this stuff. But she has had, like, she's had issues with people at school doing, like, the friend flop thing and everything else. Now, my daughter, she's had to deal with bullies before, and the friends flopping and then coming back and wanting to be her friend when their, you know, newfound fake friends decide that, you know, they're not what. So I've had to, everything I talk about here, as far as like, don't be a doormat and stand up for yourself and all this stuff, I have to consistently talk to all of my daughters about all of this kind of stuff. Because it's all stuff that they need to hear, but they need to hear it more than once to be able to believe it, right? They need to really drill it in there. And I know that, like, she snaps at me sometimes, even if it's just like a reflex from her sisters. Like, sometimes I'll tell her to do something and I'll get just something really back, and it's just like, oh, hey, wait a minute, you know? And the thing that I told her that she needs to get over, right, is saying, I know. Right? If I tell her to do something or how to do something or whatever, I know. Well, if you knew, it would be done already. You know what I mean? Like, so let's change I know to okay. That's it. Okay, Mom. Or just okay. I don't need K or just okay. Okay, Mom. Like, those are fine. So really hard to stop that. I know. So not at 6, 7, 8, 9, that not so much now, but at 10, 11 is when that started coming out. But okay, so it's to be expected. The brain construction zone. Yikes. The brain's emotional center matures much faster than the logic center. This means teens feel intense emotions but lack the brakes to regulate them. So, like, when you're talking about what's for dinner, and then you look over and your 15-year-old starts crying because you said the word spaghetti, it's probably not because you said it, right? It's probably because she's thinking of something and it triggered something else and just kind of, like, turned into a rush situation where it's like, you can't really pause, right? I mean, I'm in my 30s, and it took me until this bracket, right, to not jump and assume and need to have the last word and everything else. So we still grow as we grow, but when you're younger, you know, your body's changing, and there's no manual for this, right? And there's no specific timeline. So it's kind of like I can tell my kids what to expect. I just don't know. I don't know when to expect it. So it's almost like something bad's gonna happen. And then a year later you trip off a sidewalk or something. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't know. Like, you know that it could, you know that it will at some point, you just don't. So it's hard. Like, so just try to, like, gently guide them, let them know that it's all right, you know, it's okay. So a shift in perspective. Around ages 9 or 10, kids develop the cognitive ability to worry about the future and what others think. They move from living in the moment to evaluating themselves more critically. So that is where my daughter is, my 11-year-old. That is where, yeah, they've all been there. And this is not a scary time for them so much. I mean, it is, I guess, in a sense, but it's a scary time for me. This is the time where kids really need to really need to hear all of the positive, like, reinforcement stuff, all of the good things. You know, you're beautiful, you're smart. You need to really, this is where, like, the self-doubt and the negative shit starts to seep in. So you really need to reinforce all of those blocks, which, I mean, if you'd been doing it this whole time, you should be okay. They're not as faulty like that. But there is that age where they're like, no, and then it's like, oh my God, if I do this, is mom going to be mad at me? Is dad going to be disappointed? Is, you know, what's going to happen if I don't do this? Like, that's great. I feel like that's when you kind of jump off of the kid island where everything was so carefree and just flat out fun. You didn't really have to think about anything because your parents did all the thinking, and, you know, you were still your own person. But because you're jumping off of this little island, your personality gets a little more tame and timid even, because now you're starting to see more of the world for what it is and how people actually are. So, like, the friend flopping thing, like, things that really push your buttons and you didn't even really think of before. Like, I don't know, when I was younger, I remember sometimes I would get in a fight with a friend on Friday, right? Oh, I'm not talking to you ever again. And then Monday we get on the bus, it's like, hey, did you have a good weekend? Because I was still on Kid Island, right? I was still in my fun, fancy free time. But then you shift into 9, 10, 11, and you're like, oh my God. Like, am I never actually going to talk to her? Is she talking bad about me? Are my other friends going to do this? Like, it just starts fucking spiderwebbing into something horrible. And it's scary because, God forbid, they start to feel any kind of negative shit. And then it's just like, you get those ratchety people that are like, you should just and be done and just, you know, just go to sleep and never wake up kind of thing. And some people take that so literally. It's so fucking terrifying. It's fucking terrifying. Ugh, for young girls. Oh my God. So yes, even though I have to be the warm fuzzy, right? Because I have to be aware of this shift in perspective of everything, right? She's a bookworm. She's a, you know, top of her class kind of deal. She does softball. She has all of this stuff, but everything that she does is another thing that she has to, like, think or possibly overthink on. And the people that are involved and her coaches or her teachers, like, she doesn't want to let anybody down, and that creates a kind of form of pressure, and it's just like, that can be stressful. And then how do you balance the stress with the fun, because she is still a kid and all this stuff. But, you know, I don't want her to falter, but I don't want her to feel like she can't still be a kid. Like, it is a messy time, right? This is where you start to get, this is where, like, the onion starts to peel, and the soft shades of the attitude are coming out. All right, seeking autonomy, the push for independence naturally creates friction when it comes. Sullenness or withdrawal is often just a teen's way of establishing a private self separate from their parents. So yes, bedroom kids. As in, like, you get home, your parents are gone, they're still working or whatever, so you spend, your reprieve is in your room, right? Your solace, your sweet spot. That's where all of your stuff is. That's where you veg out after a long day at school or whatever, you just, you talk to your friends, or you're drawing or reading or watching whatever, or doing whatever the fuck you want in the privacy of your own room. This is you. Like, you got posters on the walls, on the ceiling, your clothes, however you want. Your bed's either made or it's not. Like, everything in there says something about you. So, like, yeah, I understand that you totally want to be in your space, but those parents, or those kids, the bedroom kids, my generation, are now called living room parents, a lot of us. And that's like, we're around, and our kids are kind of like around. So I'm not sad that that was how it is for myself. Like, it has been for each of my kids. I feel like there is a way more involved relationship between us all, because I've been able to be home, or if that's the ticket, I don't know. I've just been able to have a lot more FaceTime. I haven't missed anything. I haven't, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's been nice. So anyway, let's see. Common signs of the shift. Sudden silence, fading out of conversations, or giving one-word answers like whatever. That was my word. That was so my word. Let's see. Hypersensitivity, misreading neutral parental expressions as anger or disappointment. Yes. Actually, my 17-year-old deals with that a lot. Like, I'll tell her something and she'll be like going for messing around. If I say something, even if I'm not yelling or like angry, she like shuts down. She acts like like I've chopped her fucking legs off or something. Like, just cut her down, and just, I told her to shut up basically, and it's like, okay, all right, very good. Sleep shifts, a biological change. Let's see. In circadian rhythms that makes them stay up late and struggle to wake up. Oh my God. Yes. The three-nager reprise. Many experts note that teen behavior mirrors the toddler years, testing boundaries. 3, not 2. Did you notice? And needing presence without judgment. Well, I'm going to say more than likely, yes. Yes, at least a couple things. So, supporting your child through these changes, okay? Empathize. Holy fuck. Don't fix. Sometimes they just need to hear, I'm sorry you went through that, rather than a solution. And avoid taking it personally. Their lashing out is usually a reaction to internal changes, not an attack on you. I mean, I could say the same thing to them sometimes, but like, I have to remember that I'm the adult, and I went through it too, all this stuff. Encourage healthy habits. Support routines like good sleep, 8 to 10 hours, and physical activity to stabilize moods. And if moodiness lasts more than 2 weeks, involves persistent withdrawal from friends, or impacts school performance, it may be time to consult a doctor, pediatrician, whatever. Like, just if you see some heavy warning signs of possible depression and everything, that's the kind of stuff that I was talking about. Like, when my 11-year-old, when she would have issues with her friends and come home and be completely distraught and everything, like, we would talk about it thoroughly and reassure the situation and let her know that it's not her, it's just what happens. Like, that's life. It's going to keep happening, unfortunately. Like, people grow, people change. They change their mind. Like, you could go from eating steak every single day for a month and then realize, hey, I'd rather have soup. It's not the end of the world. It's weird when you're used to something for so long, but it happens. Like, it's just part of life, unfortunately. So, with that, if you have the kind of flashback days where you're reminiscing about the playful toddler times, and now you're kind of glancing in the room and you see moody teenager with their hoodie up and their earbuds in, and they're just kind of like in their own world, like, you guys have experience in that, who's just in the toddler years, who's only got the teenagers left, who has both, like crazy people like me. Such a fun thing being a parent. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. So thank you so much for joining, listening, watching, all the fun things. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next week with some other completely different topic. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Can hear my daughter through the floor. Do I want to go upstairs right now? Yes. Have a good one.